Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight on the India Development Debate. I'm Vikram. Now, the coronavirus has put India between a rock and a hard place. On the business side of it, definitely consider this. The total value of India-China trade has grown to as much as 87 billion US dollars over the last decade. A majority of the imports from China to India is in electronic items. Machinery is also among the highest, and the situation is this. More than half of China's growth hubs have not returned to work. They are extending their Lunar New Year holiday by at least a week to try and control the spread of the coronavirus, which means that factories will remain shut longer than initially expected. And that means disruptions in the production, as well as export of materials to several industries in India. Auto, especially the component makers in India. Pharma, where a majority of the APIs come from, and electronics as well. To discuss the situation as it stands on India Development Debate tonight, we have Hari Om Rai. He's the Chairman and Managing Director at Lava International. As we all know, they make those mobile phones. Gaurav Vangaal is country lead automotive forecast for IHS Market. And Mr. Sudarshan Jain is Secretary General at the Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance, the IPA. Let me come to you first, Mr. Vangaal. Only last week, we heard the Tata Motors CEO and Managing Director, Gwenter Buchek, saying that clarity about supply constraints of components from China would only emerge when workers in China rejoin work, which was expected to happen from Monday, from today. Now, that in a sense gives us a big indication that we are largely dependent on things getting back to normal in China, which is clearly not happening. Now, can you at the outset help us understand where the situation stands and the kind of dependence that we have as far as the auto industry component makers are concerned here in India? Mr. Vangaal, that question was for you.
Yeah, definitely. It's yeah, I can hear that. Definitely, I can tell you that there are some plants which has opened at the component side, and I think, but we need to understand that for the first week, the production will remain low, around 50% to 60%, and from the second week, I think if everything remains fine, then I think they will start ramping up. But currently in Indian auto industry, the impact which is coming in the two folds. One is for the car makers, and the second is coming to the component side. The component side is more severe, and everybody is monitoring their supply chains currently. There are components specifically from the electronic industry. So because the car has lot of electronics today, this is expected to impact. And what we are expecting that by midweek you may find some impact, but you may not able to gauge it because there's a model mix is running around. So car makers will stop going for some models and they will start producing other models, and it will take time to impact completely on the production system. Maybe we can return to the normal by second week or third week or the last week of February, and
yes,
if the supply chain disrupted, then definitely we will have impact.
So how are inventories looking? Typically, I mean, you would have your inventories, but at this point in time where we are going slow with productions as well in India, how are they stacking up? Are they going to come to the rescue, or are our inventories also very low when it comes to components, especially the problem area like you highlighted?
See, we have three kind of inventories in market. First is for the 15 days, second is for the 30 days, and third one is for the 60 days. Because of the lean manufacturing system, I think some of the suppliers were maintaining 15 days, and these suppliers are in trouble. And the 30 days and 60 days are relaxing right now. But there is a regions also. So we have the regions. If you are a multinational company, component company, then definitely you have a regional support coming from the Vietnam or from the ASEAN countries or from the European side. But if you are only an Indian company and you are dependent on China, then I think there is a problem.
See, you mentioned electronics, and which is why I want to go across to Mr. Hari Om Rai as well from Lava. Because, you know, it's not so easy to shift to any other technology, to other component makers because of a certain way in which the electronics business functions. So when you're looking at inventories currently for the electronics business, how does that look if you're going to look at other markets as well for supplies? Then is that really going to work, whether it's a South Korea, a Taiwan? Mr. Hari Om Rai, if you can tell me.
Yeah, actually, these are global supply chains, and no supply chain, whether it is from South Korea or Taiwan or China, are independently sufficient enough for producing the whole product. So you need to be depending upon, certain supply chains, whether from China, and that's going to be a very, very severe impact on the business. Apart from this fundamentally to be a very, very bad problem. So look at the kind of impact it is going to have on the business. So from the logistics to whether it is air or by sea, or going to be impacted. Then from there, the manufacturing itself, because of lack of supply, that's going to impact the retailers, distributors, and eventually the whole economy is going to be troubled. So it's a severe impact. It's going to be a severe impact in my mind. And so fundamentally, what needs to be done is to have, for the world also to think and have an alternate supply chain model, not only dependent upon one country, so much. Instead of that, building some alternate supply chain. So it's a good shock, although a bad thing, but a good shock for us to sort of prepare for a better future.
It's rather unfortunate, Mr. Rai, that we are thinking of alternate supply routes and supply places as well around the world. When an outbreak of this nature happens, this over-reliance on China, is that landing several industries in a problem? And I'm going to take that across to the pharma industry as well, because a lot of concentration of APIs is in China. And unfortunately, a lot of those APIs are in the Hubei province, which is the epicenter of the outbreak as well. So I'm just wondering whether, this over-dependence, Mr. Rai, on China, especially when you're looking at all the components that go into the making of mobile phones, especially today, where India is among the biggest makers of mobile phones outside of China, this is going to wreak havoc.
It's going to have a very, very large impact on the entire economy, because everything is linked. From one sector to another sector, job loss can happen, etc., etc. So it's a very, very large impact, and it's a very, very unfortunate situation. But we need to learn from it and try to create an alternate supply chain solutions. India is a very good destination for an alternate supply chain to China. And, and that's what I think the world should be looking at.
Mr. Jain, come in on this. How equipped is the pharma industry to deal with this current crisis as it stands? Because like I mentioned, a huge chunk of the APIs that the pharma industry in India requires comes from China. And unfortunately, like I said, it's concentrated in the Hubei province. How is the industry grappling?
So thank you very much, Vikram. As you rightly said, that we have high dependence on China, on API and intermediates. We have tried to look at the overall inventory and what is the situation as far as the impact of coronavirus is concerned. We have taken stock of the inventory, and the way we look at it, because of the lunar holidays which were there, many of the companies have kept the inventory of 2 to 3 months. So we have got the advantage that the inventory is being kept, and what government and all the industry stakeholders are working together to find out what are the inventory levels, are we likely to have the shortages. So at this particular moment, the way we look at it is we will continue to maintain the supply if the situation gets resolved in a short period of time. And the area which is of concern is antibiotics and vitamins, because in fermentation-based technologies, which has an impact on antibiotics and vitamins, we have got high dependence on China. So what we are trying to look is looking at the inventory levels at a very close level along with the government, and all of us, good part is that all of us are working in an integrated way to take care of the situation. Coming to the second question, first is in the short term what we can do, and in the long term what we need to do, because in the short term is take stock of the inventory. Wherever we have got the technology, can we locally produce it, and can we also evaluate alternate source beyond antibiotics? So that is one of the options. And in the long term, we have to create our own capabilities. Although we have got the technology, we have to create structures which incentivize the production of APIs in India.
Yeah, but from the data that we have, China accounts for close to 68% of the total imports of bulk drugs and drug intermediates. This was the situation in the last fiscal, Mr. Jain, and the value of those imports stood at over 2,400 million US dollars. So impact is a given. I'm just wondering whether this is going to impact the scenario on filing of new drugs as well. Tell me how that's likely to play out.
So the way we look at it, yes, there are alternative suppliers of many of the products around the world. And also we have got the capability of produce many of them. The impact will be primarily in antibiotics and vitamins area, which are fermentation-based products, where the alternative capacities do not exist. And China has built up large-scale plant. So overall, the costing of those products in China used to be very, very low. So the plants in other parts of the world have closed down. Now, we can't have immediate solution as far as antibiotics and vitamins are concerned, because you can't create capacity in a month or 2 months' time. So the immediate thing what all of us in the industry are looking for is, fortunately, we had the advantage of inventory. We have got 2 to 3 months inventory of all those antibiotics as well as vitamins. And to a granular level, what we are looking at is we are monitoring the inventory at every SKU level, every API level, and government and industry is working together. So in the short term, if the situation gets resolved, we will be able to tide over the crisis. But if it continues for a longer period of time, we have to work out what we need to do as far as antibiotics and vitamins are concerned.
But Mr. Jain, also India has about 1,500 API plants. They are running at 40% capacity as well. Is this going to be an opportunity for them to really rise to the occasion? Do you think they'll have a big role to play in case we are going to see disruptions in supply going ahead?
Absolutely. Like say, what we are also working on is many of the areas we have got the technology. So although China had the tremendous cost advantage, if we can start producing those APIs in some of the other places. So the government has come out with environmental clearance policy where you can change the mix. We'll have to look at the state level, how fast we can ramp up the production of those APIs, living where we don't have large-scale manufacturing plant for fermentation-based products.
Mr. Vangaal, let me take it across to you and ask you about the auto industry, because the government's Make in India initiative perhaps was designed to make sure that any kind of disruptions like this would get thwarted, that we would see much more action from our domestic industry when it comes to the basic supplies that are required, because in any kind of disruption, you will end up not having a vehicle on the road. It is going to be a disruption to that extent, no matter how small that component is. How much of that initiative has actually taken root?
Absolutely right. Actually, one component can stop the complete production line. That is the case here. As far as Make in India is concerned, I think we are highly dependent on the localized components. But there are parts we are exporting from China, because the economies of scales play a big role here. The cost what we are getting from China is cannot be replicated in Indian market, even cannot be replicated at other regions also. So there are components which will come from China because of the scale, and we have already localized a lot of things, and we are highly dependent on the domestic market for the component side and for the demand side also. But yes, there will remain some percentage coming from the China.
So in that kind of scenario, and I'm looking at information that is just coming my way about inflation. In China, it's hit the highest level in more than 8 years now. This has happened only last month. coronavirus is actually driving up demand for some of these consumer goods, the kind of business activity that is seeing a shutdown. So, Mr. Rai, when you look at the electronics business as well, and you look at what you need to import, even if you are going to see a move towards a reinstatement of supplies, as it were, do you fear that prices of these components that you import are going to rise and that's going to have a negative impact on your business? And if so, what are we looking at?
No, but this is still a very small impact, actually. If you look at it from the more holistic perspective, the impact is going to be very, very severe on the entire economy. And today, the economy is already not in a very good condition. So the opportunity is to ensure that there is not even a single job loss, happen because of this. And let me give you one important information that if we lose about 10,000 rupees job, a month job, its impact on the economy is 45,700 rupees. And, the kind of the tax revenue which the government loses because of that is 7,701 rupees. So a very large impact happens on one single job loss of a month. So look at the kind of impact which it can create. So what we need to do is to ensure that we should do anything to ensure that there is no job loss happening from the industry, protect the industry in the short term, help them to pass this time through additional liquidity or whatever needed. I think this is the first thing which is very, very here and now that must be done. Then we also need to find out the midterm and long-term solutions. So it's an opportunity for us to look into it and prepare ourselves for any such eventuality for the future. And that's what a visionary nation should do.
You talk about this as though it is the first time it has happened, but it hasn't. Look at what happened. The SARS crisis, as we saw it, was severe. Of course, now coronavirus has surpassed it. Mr. Jain, if you can help us compare the kind of problem, the intensity of it, the disruptions that it caused back then, as opposed to what we are seeing right now and what we are likely to see going ahead, considering that the number of cases are going up.
As you rightly said, it is a very serious situation. The latest report which you have been showing on your TV is 900 deaths and 33,000 people impacted with coronavirus. So the issue is serious. A good part is Indian government has also supported that it will work with Chinese government to deal with the situation. We being in the drug industry, we are called the pharmacy of the world. As far as formulations are concerned, we supply to, we contribute around 20% of the world market for formulations. So this issue is of tremendous significance to all of us. What we are trying to do is making sure that supply is taken care of, the overall supply of formulations does not get impacted. So we are working very closely with the government, finding out all the solutions.
But
so in the short run,
yes,
the way we feel it is because of the inventory situation, we will be able to take care.
No,
but we have
that
to be
point is well
conscious
taken.
of
I'm
if
just
it lasts for a
looking
longer
at
duration
the
of time,
impact on
what next?
prices, for one. If we had to learn lessons from the past about readiness to deal with outbreaks of this nature and our reliance on China, then what were the lessons from SARS, which took place at closer to the turn of the century back in 2003? So it's not like this is hitting us for the first time. I'm just wondering, when it comes to controlling of prices, when it comes to making our own capabilities that much stronger to deal with a crisis of this kind, how far have we come, Mr. Jain?
Now, I will say that every new situation demands new kind of solution, and integrated approach becomes very, very important. I can talk more of the healthcare industry. I've never seen it. I've been part of this industry for 40 years. This is the first time that the government and the industry is working together. In fact, IPA companies, which has 25 top companies, we are working very closely with the government. We are evaluating our inventory situation and working with the government to what extent we can ensure the supplies. And we are also monitoring the situation at China, what is happening. So at this moment, the way we see it, fortunately in this case, because of lunar holidays, we had the advantage. We had kept the inventory in the healthcare industry,
Yes.
in pharma industry, 2 to 3 months. So we can carry on for some period of time.
Yes.
The question is, if it continues beyond, say, a month, then the issue becomes much more complex. So we are waiting and watching, and also it is call for action for all of us.
Well,
We will
waiting and
keep on
watching perhaps
evaluating
may
the
not be the
situation
best
and keep
approach
on
to a
working
crisis
on
of
our
this kind,
responses
because
accordingly.
it seems to be getting more severe, and unless we act now, I don't know if we can wait that long. Mr. Vangaal, I wanted to ask you as well, when you look at the auto industry, this couldn't hit the industry at a worse time, because on the 1st of April, we are looking at making a transition from BS4 to BS6. We're looking at an auto industry that has slowed down so much. We're wondering how much this is going to further impact any turnaround that was likely to happen. As far as pricing is concerned, we've heard from several manufacturers as well that they want to hike prices. Now, they have less and less option but to go ahead and hike those prices even further. How are they going to deal with it?
See, price hikes are inevitable. They are coming because of the BS4 and BS6. There is no relation with the coronavirus right now. But what we are expecting here, that this is a temporary phase, and auto industry will definitely relook into the strategies that how to de-risk themselves in the global supply chain, in India specifically. Then we will definitely see that how long it is going to happen. And we expect that this is a temporary, and we will recover the volume lost. If we lose some volumes in coming months, we will definitely recover the volumes, because the inventory pipeline is very low. They have already dried up. We are under the transition phase from BS4 to BS6, and I believe that this impact is very temporary, and we will definitely fill up the inventories back when the things will normalize in near term.
Mr. Vangaal, can you perhaps do a little bit of a comparison, say Maruti, which is your largest passenger vehicle maker in India, compared to what impact a Tata Motors is likely to face as well? Because it's not just supply of components. We are looking at a market to which Tata Motors supplies its vehicles, and we are talking about Jaguars and Land Rovers. Now, that market is going to see a huge a drop in the possibility of Tata Motors sales as well. So clearly some companies are going to get impacted in the auto world much more than others.
Yes, definitely. See, if you're dependent on the sales at China, they definitely are going to get impacted. But I may not be in position to talk about any company here and comment on any company whether what will going to happen with their sales. But yes, we as a whole India, as an automotive industry, we all are monitoring it, and it's a war room thing running in all the car manufacturers right now. They all are monitoring how the impact is going to be and how we can revive out from the impact.
All right, fair enough. I mean, there is a lot at stake over here. There's no taking away from that. The impact is playing out even as we speak, even as we remain hopeful that this virus is going to be contained and its impact is not going to be felt too strongly and too deep as well, that we will see a resumption to normalcy sometime soon. The numbers don't seem to indicate that. But as far as industry is concerned, whether you look at auto, you look at pharma, you look at electronics, all of them are talking about the kind of impact, and waiting and watching, unfortunately, we don't seem to have the time for. That's the big debate on this edition of India Development Debate. I want to thank our guests for joining us. Thanks indeed for making the time and sharing your perspectives.